But good to see all of you again. We'll kick off with a special greeting for the president, our past presidents, our stalwarts in the room, and the members of the Business Forum, our sponsors, and also our panelists for the sessions that we're going to be having this morning. And also our esteemed guests, all of you. I think this cannot happen without you. You are a very critical part of what we will be talking about and hopefully doing as well today. I am Lebu Pasha, the head of economy for ABASA. I'm going to be very short in my introduction of myself. I think I see beyond just accounting. I think people look at a lot of the people in the room and think accounting/auditing, but I see all sorts of other things. I've seen golfers yesterday, but there's a lot of other things that accountants do, and I think my aspiration is to see and have other people see that you can be more than that. There's so much that we can do. We can innovate and we can really be disruptors, not just in South Africa, but in the rest of Southern Africa as well. And why we are here today is our inaugural business Indaba. It's the first of its kind. It's a brainchild of our business forum, and we are hoping to really be at the forefront of changing things, transforming and forming a new reality that works for all of us. We've had a few technical issues this morning, but I'm going to hand over to Sibusiso Nduna, the chairperson of the Business Forum, to take us through the events of today, what today looks like for you.
Thank you, Lebu. I just want to firstly apologize for the delay that has happened this morning. Our host for the Indaba has encountered some challenges in arriving here. She is still on her way, but she had advised that we start on with the program, and then she will join us shortly. I think she was coming into the city, and the traffic is a nightmare this morning. So our program is a little bit compromised in that regard. So I do apologize, but she will then take over the reins as MC when she arrives. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So again, my name is Sibusiso Nduna. I am the chairperson of the ABASA Business Forum, which is essentially a committee supporting the board in achieving its strategy to support small and medium-sized black businesses. Mine this morning is to just give a brief overview of what exactly is the ABASA Business Forum. So to start off, the Business Forum is relatively new, that having been launched in June of last year, in July 2021, in partnership with Zero, which is a software development company that provides cloud accounting services to small and medium-sized entities. Subsequent to the launch, our committee of the Business Forum held a strategy session where, amongst other things, discussions on the terms of reference and the mandate given by the board were discussed, the value proposition to our members was discussed, and also the activities we wanted to embark on throughout the course of the year. And it is at this strategy session that the idea of hosting the inaugural Business Indaba was birthed. So this is our first Business Indaba. We are learning, and we are taking it as it comes. So exactly what are the objectives then of the Business Forum? So I'm going to read them in terms of what is on our terms of reference. One is to perform an advocacy role through active participation in the continuous development of black economic empowerment legislation, to increase the capacity and skill set of member firms through collaborative efforts, to lobby for business opportunities for ABASA Business Forum members in both the public and private sectors, and to determine the membership criteria of the forum and to recommend membership fees to the ABASA board for approval. Those are the key objectives. There are other objectives, but those I just wanted to highlight here this morning. Now, communication has been sent out by our comms team for interested ABASA members to form part of the committee of the business forum because it was still under its formation. Sadly and unfortunately, that process came out with disappointing results because a few people showed interest and put up their hand to say they would like to be part of the committee of this forum. So as a result, there are vacant portfolios within the committee of the business forum. And the plan is obviously to fill those portfolios as soon as we can. So there's a lot of undercapacitation from our end, and that can only be addressed when we reach out to a larger pool of people to come and form part of our committee. So there are various portfolios within the committee, one of them being personal wealth development, which Usise Kotose heads up. We have our TG, Olutumili, and we also have our head of skills development, Rifula Matensha, who could unfortunately not make it today due to personal reasons, and they have sent me their apologies they've asked me to extend their apologies. The Business Forum Committee should not be confused with the Business Forum Advisory Council, which is chaired by our past president, President Sathi Gowden. We are still in the process of aligning these bodies, but suffice to say, the Committee of the Business Forum is a working committee, and the Advisory Council comes in more at a strategic level, including advising on MOUs that ABASA enters with other stakeholders in supporting black businesses. Our current active members are MASA Auditors, which is headed up by Emma Mashilwane. She was with us yesterday, and I think she's on her way here. Fuchane Consulting, headed up by Ulerato Fuchane. The same applies. The NYDA is also one of the members of the Business Forum. Wasim Karim, the CEO of the NYDA, could not join us today because they've got a board meeting that he needs to attend to. PSTM Auditors, Ramwetisi Incorporated, and Kolano Chartered Accountants, headed up by the chairperson of the ABASA Leadership Committee, Utabo Mongatane. So these are entities that are active members and who have paid their current membership fees during the calendar year of 2022. The annual fee is currently 12,500 plus VAT to join to be a member of the ABASA Business Forum. And I think it is important to note that 40% of this fee is allocated to the national office as they support a lot of our initiatives, and 60% remains for the benefit of the Business Forum and its activities. Now, the committee had also reached out to a larger pool of potential members and have actually invoiced them, but sadly, there's been no response despite numerous follow-ups on our end. So the attraction of members continues to be a part of our developmental areas. We are struggling to attract our members, and we are saying that continues to be a developmental area. Another developmental area is the Business Forum attracting its own sponsorships, because we cannot rely on membership fees alone. We need to be able to raise funds as the Business Forum to support the activities that we plan on doing for our members, but also for operational reasons. One of our plans was to attend road shows across provinces to create awareness on the forum and to also attend the policy conferences that are often held across the country by the government, etc. And that needs funds and cannot use membership fees to do those things. But most importantly, why we want to raise funds is that we want to create real value to our members in such a way that we raise funds and create some relief for some of our members so they can see real value. Because often the question has been, what is then the real value of entering this? What will I get? A tangible benefit. So that's another developmental area over and above the attraction of members, but also to find sponsorship. The good news, though, is that the most talked about MOU between ABASA and KPMG has seen 2 of our active members, MASA Auditors and Fushana Consulting, being involved in joint audits with KPMG. And a further good news is that these 2 entities are also one of our sponsors for this year's convention. So we are saying shine. Our head of economy, Ulebu Pasha, will facilitate the Creation Lab later on today, which is necessary to better understand the needs of our members so that our strategy can talk to and respond to those needs that are of the highmost priority. We trust you're going to enjoy this session today, and I'm available throughout the day for any questions regarding the Business Forum. Thank you. So with the absence of an MC, thank you for those claps, because now she was supposed to come and introduce the next speaker. So the next item then on our program is then the commencement of our first panel. That's going to be facilitated by Usiseko. So I think I'm going to call Usiseko to come, introduce the panel discussion, the topic, and then introduce the panelists. And then they can then go ahead with the first panel discussion. Thank you.
You don't have to turn this on. I'll use this one. Or both. All right, thanks. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Spoo, for the warm welcome. And I'd like to just echo Spoo's sentiments or comments about us being profusely apologetic for starting so late. We are still waiting on our MC. But other than that, welcome, and let's kick this off. So my name is Siseko Tose. I am part of the ABASA Business Forum Committee. I serve as the head of personal wealth development. I'm not going to tell you how to make money. I don't know. I don't have it. But I'm certainly going to try to help our stakeholders find real solutions to business problems. So the title of the panel is called Banking and Other Funding Sources for Small to Medium Businesses. So on the panel, we've got bankers, we've got private funding, well, rather non-banking companies that are also joining us, to just sort of impart some information onto our guests. The need for this type of panel was that, starting a business is difficult, but maintaining one, I think, is even a harder task. A lot of our young entrepreneurs are struggling to find funding. They're struggling to find banking solutions that are suited for their specific companies, and that they don't know, the information is not there. And I think a lot of the guys, I was in banking for quite a while, and a lot of my guys would come to me and say, but we never knew the banks do this. We didn't know they offer this. Why doesn't anybody tell us? We did not know that private funding does this. We did not know. There's so many things. So we want these guys to add some sort of value, impart the necessary skills and knowledge to young business owners, potential business owners as well. And hopefully we're going to have a really robust conversation. So I'll introduce the panel. We've got Brent Geddes. You can join us on the stage. So Brent is from Cape Town. He is the CEO of Geddes Capital, the CEO and founder. He's been running for 6 years now. He's got a very beautiful website. You must check it out. And then the next panelist is Sherwin Eddy. And I think they'd call you guys into the the banking term is seasoned bankers, right? I don't know if they still use that term. I'll give you age away, yes. But yeah, he is a banker with Standard Bank, and he's in the business banking section. And then we've got Ashley Davis. And you'll probably be able to tell from the suit that he is a Standard Bank gentleman as well. Also from, I think, retail and business banking as well. And then there's me. Do I have a chair? Okay, I'll sit down. Okay, now, so this one's on. All right, thank you very much. So I've introduced the topic at hand. I'll give over to the panelists to sort of further introduce themselves, let you know what it is exactly that they do, just giving them their 10 minutes of fame, sort of. And then from there on, we will continue to shape the discussion. Brent? Yeah.
Over to me.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Brent Geddes, as Seko said, and the founder and CEO of Geddes Capital, and we are an SME lending business, or a non-bank lending business. I'll first give you a little history of where we started and how we got to where we are now, and then I'll just sort of go through the type of products that we actually offer to the SMEs that we lend to. So Geddes Capital started about just over 5 years ago. The original idea was actually early stage private equity into SMEs, and myself and a business partner got involved, and we allocated some of our own capital that we had earned over our lives, and we wanted to invest those in SMEs, get involved, and see if we can make a difference and build a business. We quickly worked out that what an entrepreneur thinks their business is worth and what we were prepared to pay is quite different. If you could cross that bridge through structuring and agreements and that kind of thing, it took ages to kind of structure a deal and make an equity deal actually happen and get it across the line. And then, if you've managed to agree a deal, got through all the legals and actually done something, you kind of make the investment and very quickly work out and realize that you kind of two A-type personalities that actually don't get on. So I think we quickly worked out that sort of equity and equity type investing wasn't actually for us. But serendipitously, in throwing our net wide and looking for opportunities and meeting different people along the way, we came along across a broker who we had been dealing with, and he said to us, "Well, I know you don't look at debt opportunities, but and you're kind of trying to on the equity space, but there is a guy. He was defrauded out of some money. He has a transport business based in Durban. His story was actually on carte blanche. He's looking for 600,000 rand to start to kind of get his business back on track again. He's got a 4 million rand house. He's prepared to put up a security, and he's prepared to actually pay 3% a month to borrow the money because he can't come right to the bank." So we sat there and went 3 times 12 equals, okay, that's quite decent returns. Let's does this debt space even really exist? So we kind of a little bit wet behind the ears, went into that first deal. Now it wasn't totally wet behind the ears. I sort of do come from a banking background myself. I was at Rand Merchant Bank. My partner was at Barclays and Goldman Sachs for some years. But we went into that first deal, and I think we were quite lucky. I look at the DD we did, I look at the contracts we did, I look at all that kind of stuff, and back then 5 years ago, and the hairs at the back of my neck stand up. Actually, when you kind of know what you did, I think we've come a long way since then. We did that deal, and it was successful. And we said, okay, well, let's instead of allocating money to equity deals, let's see if more of these debt opportunities exist out there. And we allocated some more of our capital to that, and within a matter of weeks, it was out the door. And again, we were quite lucky with all the first deals we did. So if anyone ever asked me, would you rather be lucky or smart, my answer is I'd definitely rather be lucky. We were, and I think, we had this good starting run to the business. We were also lucky that both myself and my partner did have some capital to kind of back ourselves initially and put to work. And now we're at a point where we have institutional funding. We've kind of grown the business from strength to strength, We seem to be breaking records almost monthly in terms of our profitability and that kind of thing now. And things are going really well for us. So that's kind of the history. If you ask what does Geddes Capital actually do and what does it offer, we're always adding to the suite of products that we offer, but for the meantime, there's 4 key products that we offer. The main part of the business is secured lending. So if you've got an asset, a house, trucks, vehicles, plants and machinery, a share portfolio or something like that, we can take that as security and then lend the business money against the back of that security. And where we're quite different with the bank is we can be very innovative around the types of security that we take. So often we found things like a property might be sitting in a trust or in a company, and there's lots of equity in that property, but there's still a small bond in place with a bank. We can become trustees. We can take cession of shares of a company and become a director and those kind of things. So we'll try our best and try to really understand the company, the dynamics of the security to try and see how we can secure a deal. And then that's not the only thing we look at. It's not just the security. We also have what we call the 3 points of the triangle. So security is obviously quite key, but then it's the jockey and the cash flow and the serviceability and affordability to actually manage and pay the sort of interest rates that we do charge. And if you can tick, say, 2.5 of those points of the triangle, you can probably get a loan from us on the secured side. Then we also offer something called invoice discounting, or some people know it as invoice or debtors factoring. So a lot of companies that we found don't actually have assets to put up as security, but they have a business with lots of customers and a good debtors book where they've delivered the product or they've delivered the service to those customers, but those customers are actually only going to pay them in 30 or 60 days' time. We provide a product that can turn those invoices into cash today. So if you have 100 Rand of invoices that you want to turn into cash, we can pay you 70 Rand of that 100 Rand today. And then when those debtors finally pay the 100 Rand, they usually pay into our account. We will take our 70 Rand that we gave initially, plus a 2.50 Rand fee, and the balance of the 27.50 Rand goes to the owner of the business. So it's a very, very easy product to put in place. It's a very good product for guys who don't actually have security, and kind of acts as an additional bank overdraft that the business can use to manage their own cash flows. The third product, which is a very exciting product we've launched now, is something called Retail Rocket, which is an inventory finance business. Now, this is predominantly focused on people who sell online. I'm sure many of you have heard about people starting up side hustles. You'd be actually, you'd be amazed at how many people have jobs and have a side hustle, and they're selling stuff on Take-A-Lot or One Day Only or something like that. And they've got, a couple of 100 Rand or 500,000 Rand of stock sitting in their garage or in their living room that they're sort of doing and selling. Now, they can actually often see how quickly the stuff is being sold through Take-A-Lot, and they want to order more from their suppliers, whether it be local suppliers or international suppliers, but obviously all their cash is sitting in their stock. We, as Retail Rocket, will go and buy that stock for pretty much cost value, so that if you've got 500 stock, we'll buy your stock for 500,000 Rand. You get an additional 500,000 Rand to buy additional stock and can grease the wheels of the business. And all we do is we take a small profit share of the margin, so you always know what you're in for. And we're finding that business is really, really taking off. We have been listed as a preferred funding partner on Take-A-Lot. And that business is doing really well, and I think has a very, very bright future. And then the last product we do offer, on a slightly, I suppose, smaller scale, is to offer small-scale trade finance. And this is more for people, more for all types of products such as the bulk commodities, so the manganese, the coals, the sort of hard commodities, even things like soft commodities like wheat and soy and those type of things. So we'll get involved in actually partnering with the trader. We have logistics experts that really understand how to manage the logistical side of these trades, and we'll partner on a profit-sharing arrangement where we can. So that's what we kind of offer at the moment. It's the secured lending, invoice discounting, the inventory finance through Retail Rocket, and then trade finance. But as we go and as we kind of get to see and understand the needs of SMEs and small business, we're always trying to shake our heads and try to rattle the cage and try to come up with new products and different ways of funding things that are and can help SMEs.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll cross over to you, Sherwin.
Hi, okay, I'm on.
You.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sherwin Eddy from Standard Bank. I've been with the bank for just over 19 years now, specializing in the business sector. So I look after the Western Cape as well as the rest of South Africa, and now has recently gone over the waters and looking after international clients as well. So basically from our side, our offering in terms of Standard Bank, I think was summed up here, if I can copy paste.
You're welcome to.
But yeah, generally I team up, or Ashley and myself, we team up with a segment called Enterprise Development. And in Enterprise Development, they look at developing your SMEs, especially your 51% black-owned companies, in terms of growing their businesses by offering them the purchase solutions, the purchase invoicing, things like that. For if you're starting up a business, you don't really have the capital to pay for the products that you need. As was alluded, we also finance those purchase orders for you. If you are in the building, we also do that for you as well. We can finance some of your building. And then also we don't really look into venture businesses, but if it's a franchise that you are wanting to purchase and it's shown to be proven to work in the community, we'll look at giving that as well, based on your business plan and your cash forecasts. Generally, you just need to, like I said, be 51% black owned and have a good business plan. We can look at financing you in terms of starting up. That's our focus on the enterprise development. And then in terms of the accounting packages that we have, so we have a package called Edge, and that's for your accountants, and that allows you to have one point of contact within Standard Bank, and that allows you to have access to all your clients' business accounts, obviously with consent from them, to get in, and we bridge the gap between SARS. We give you the access to the IT statements that you're requiring. If your customer's needing lending, we bridge that gap for you as well. And the Edge and enterprise development, they work hand in hand, meaning if your client needs a loan and the bank is willing to give X amount, but they're short by a certain amount, then we bring in the enterprise development and say, can you facilitate the rest of this lending? And the enterprise development loan is not your basic loan that you get at the bank where the interest rates are sometimes very high. This loan rate is very low, and they give you a different term repayment ability based on it. And sometimes, depending on the business and the business owner and the loan that you're looking for, it could actually be something that is given to you by enterprise as part of their annual budget. So they give you the funding, depending on what it is that you do. The only thing the enterprise development doesn't do is prototypes. So if you've got a prototype that you want to start building or growing or marketing, that's something that don't really look into. It has to be something that works. The other thing that we do offer in terms of our offering nowadays is a fully electronic onboarding system. So gone are the days where your client needs to walk into a bank and sit down and see somebody and go through the whole paperwork and everything. We do everything electronically. So I can be servicing a client that is sitting in Angola, for argument's sake, and they're needing to move produce from there to us or vice versa. Then we also liaise with our CFC team that handles the foreign exchange, and everything is done electronically. So your business clients can continue doing what they need to do in their business and not take time out of their busy days to come and see somebody in a physical branch. And then the other thing, I'm taking all the stuff away from you. I don't know what you're going to say.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Leave something for him to say.
Go with it, Sherwin.
Yeah, so just in terms of our offerings, so for your enterprise development, for qualification, I said it's the 51% BE, and you just the threshold is 50 million rand per annum turnover. That's the most they will go up to. Anything above that, they won't look at that. So if the clients in your space are within that space, they can look into assisting with that model. I'm going to leave some stuff for Ashley if you have anything else to say.
Oh, maybe just to touch up on that. Hi, I'm Ashley, Standard Bank as well. I've been in the banking industry for roughly about 15 years, split between ABASA and Standard Bank. So Sherwin touched a lot on enterprise development in the sort of specialized segment of the bank. But of course, we do focus on our normal conventional type of lending, being your overdrafts, your business revolving loans, your credit card facilities as well. And of course, our role is to grow a startup business. So, if you have interest in what Standard Bank has to offer, being it starting up a company or having an existing company, we would do that first engagement in terms of, or that first point of relationship, which is to have the account opened, and that's how we grow. We grow with you, you grow with us. You create sort of a conduct or a background in terms of how the business is going, and at the back end we can see how things are going and how we can offer our services in terms of financing, because we've got a very intuitive system that actually does all these sort of calculations, and we can determine what we can offer you. Just an additional product, what we I think Sherwin didn't mention, is a very intuitive product as well, called the BizFlex loan. So it's not your conventional type of loan in the sense of, we give you 10,000 and you pay back 100 Rand every month. It's more of, we advance you 10,000, and when your funds come into the account, you choose a percentage of how much you want to deduct from that, and that's how the loan gets paid back on a daily to even a weekly basis, depending when funds actually gets credited into your account. So that's one smart loan offering that we have that I don't think any other bank has on their side. Anything else I didn't touch on? Yeah, and of course, like I mentioned, the overdrafts, which is your sort of main working capital solution, upfront limit or cash to see to your day-to-day running of your costs, whilst waiting for funds to come in. And of course, the credit card solution we have, for your day-to-day expenses as well.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. That was very nice and detailed. I'll start off and ask a question, and I think I'll throw it at you, Brent, but sure. The bankers can sort of jump in as well. So there's a very general perception, out there, and that is, if I go to my bank, right, I bank with Standard Bank, and I ask them for a loan, they'll say no, chances are, and then I'm going to knock on your door. And the perception out there is that you are going to charge me an exorbitant interest rate. And I think a lot of times people want the justification, because now a Standard Bank will say prime plus 0.5%, and you'll say, I'm 23% on this loan, and that is that. And the sort of don't really see the justification for that, and sometimes people take out these loans to start their businesses out of desperation at the moment. Yeah. Could you sort of put some justification behind that perception, whether it's real or not? I won't say it, but
it's definitely not real.
Yeah.
The non-bank lending space is definitely more expensive. It just is that. So I think, but I'll touch on a few points there. So I've got actually quite a lot to say on that. So firstly, the rates are high. So the thing with the non-bank lenders is that we obviously not funding ourselves at the same rate as a bank funds themselves. They can get deposits. The reason that you are a bank is that you have a deposit-taking license. So you can fund yourself at very cheap rates, which allows them to charge you the prime plus ones or twos or whatever that is. I mean, we're getting funded at much higher rates, institutional funding rates. So just because of our funding rate, we just naturally have to actually charge quite a lot more, and it does sometimes sound quite scary. So that is true. I think if you're going to the non-bank lending space, you definitely will be paying a lot more for your money. That said, I think the non-bank lenders like us, we're not like necessarily a long-term funding partner. I think that's always going to be the traditional funders, where the funding rates are definitely more acceptable. And non-bank lenders and banks can actually work very much hand in hand. So we do have relationships with a lot of bankers where we will incubate customers or deals while the bank's going through their DD and getting their stuff done. And so we can come in for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, while that process actually goes through. Now, for a bank, often the banks, they've just got to the point where they need a lot of tick boxes ticked, and they need all the tick boxes ticked. That's normally the case, where we are prepared to kind of go speak to someone. You tick these and these boxes. We kind of understand security. We know you as a person. We kind of see a certain level of affordability. We're prepared to make things happen, and you can actually get the money you need in the time you need the money. And you get your money, you get to get your contract, you get to win your thing, you get to buy your machine, you get to start operating and get going. And then build up that track record. We can actually assist you and help you. And so you actually need to get your proper audited accounts in place. You need to start doing monthly management accounts. You need to do X, Y, and Z. And once you've got those things and doing those things properly, you actually really have the ability to get bank funding. And we're very, very happy to pass on those loans to banks in however long it takes those businesses to actually get those banking traditional finance loans. We always say, if you can get traditional finance, you must really go and knock on that door. Yeah. It's only in the event that that's too long or too slow or too difficult that we can kind of assist in the interim.
All right. Thank you for that. So that does sort of shed a little bit of light onto that. You said something about how diverse your approach is to security. And I liked what you said about the trust. You can go into the trust and be a trustee in that trust. So that sort of covers you. From a banking perspective, gentlemen, how much innovation is there in your thinking and application of security on specific products? So, for example, I want an overdraft, and I just have a 2-bedroom apartment in Cape Town, and my car is leased. What other way am I able to say, guys, I'm really good for this, besides my word, obviously? How have you guys grown in that space where you're not saying, okay, give me your house, I can't, give me this, I can't, I don't have it, basically zero assets to offer? What is the bank's sort of approach there?
I'll take it. So generally, we have to look at your financial position in terms of your financials.
Yeah.
Okay. We look on the system in terms of, if it does qualify under what we call a scored application to see if there is headroom or availability for lending for the client. Okay. If not, we then take in your whole financial sort of statements. Everything from your balance sheet, your income statement, your cash flow, everything. Ideally, we look at primary source of repayment ability. Okay. Being the affordability part, which is, how good is the money side on paper, as opposed to secondary repayment ability, which is the value in the asset. So we don't base loans just on the fact that you have a house. Okay. We first turn to, can you afford it, in the sense of how you look on paper. All right. And that's how we base our applications.
Okay.
I also want to say on that, obviously I think a lot of the non-bank lenders are also coming up with interesting ways to look at security, like invoice discounting and inventory finance and all the rest of it. But for young, small businesses, when you start a business, it's very, very difficult to convince any lender that doesn't know you to back you. Banks and not even us, we're not going to back an entrepreneur that we don't know, right? Yeah. So there's definitely like a journey and a life cycle. So the one thing we always like to say is you've got to afford to be an entrepreneur. And that's it's kind of an oxymoron in some ways. But you either need to have some money to start, or you actually need to have friends and family that are prepared to know you, to back you and provide you with that initial funding to get you to a point where you can then approach either non-bank lenders or bank lenders.
All right. So I come to you, you've given me the funding, everything's set up, now I've got my equipment, I've got everything. There's something, that every customer wants, and that is sort of an after-service care from their provider. So, in the banking world, we'll report on all of these impairments on loans. We're writing things off, people are not paying, and I'm sure you would do the same thing on your end. What kind of support do you offer to those businesses? Because it's all good and well to give somebody 600,000 to start up whatever they want to. But how do you actually know that these guys are going to pay me back? Affordability is obviously something that you assess. That's great. But people don't normally do what they say they'll do, What is there a gap somewhere between you lending and then sort of offering some sort of support for that business? And this is obviously non-financial services. I think some banks will help out with business strategy and so forth and financial advice. How does Standard Bank approach that?
So basically, when a client approaches us and they need a loan, we don't just jump on our computers and where's the figures. And we need to assess what is the loan for. Is it going to bring value? Is it going to grow your business? This loan that you're wanting, and what is that you want to purchase? Maybe there's some other way of getting finance for whatever it is that you want to purchase, whether it be an equipment, or maybe you want to purchase a building or commercial property, or maybe you just need liquid cash to make your daily purchases for your clients or bring in stock. So when we look at those aspects then we can sit down with the customer and guide them and say, you know what, you don't necessarily need this type of structured loan. This is what we can do for you. And we can then look at as Ashley alluded to, the scoring of the client and say, look, you qualify for X amount, but you don't have to take this whole X amount into one specific product. You can split it across, maybe give you a corporate credit card that allows you flexibility of doing whatever you need to do, an overdraft that manages your cash flow, and then your fixed loan repayment, maybe you needed to purchase equipment for the business. So there's various ways to look at an individual. Not everybody's the same. We just need to sit down and go through if they have a business plan and see where do you see your company growing, and is this loan going to get you to that next level? Yeah.
And what are the common, I'll call them absolutely like the no-nos. So you'll have a couple of people saying, I've gone to Standard Bank, I've gone to ABASA, I've gone to Nedbank, I've spoken to Brent, and I'm not getting any assistance. I've gone to the government, What are the general themes that you pick up when you will immediately decline a credit application?
So generally in our space, what I see a lot of is,
and I'm asking this because I'm asking this because a lot of people they're not told why they do not qualify for funding. You're told no. And then you're going to probably get the same thing at another bank. You're going to get the same thing from Brent.
What we see is we'll be approached and the client will need a loan. And it will be something that they want to try on the side and start up and see if it's going to work. So generally what happens is we don't necessarily decline. We say, you know what, give us a business plan of how you're going to make this thing work, because we're not going to just give money and then not get it back. So generally what happens is that the clients approach us, they don't have that business plan in place. So we then take the next step, and we have offerings on the Standard Bank website where there's templates for business plans. It takes you step by step. What do you want to do? What is your business about? How are you going to get there? Who's going to be your suppliers? Who's going to be your customers? And then from there we say, okay, is this what you need to do? And then we look at it viably. Is this something that's already working in our community? Or is it something that's brand new that you've thought about? And we take the conversation from there. So it's not just a hard decline. And obviously affordability does play a big part. But I mean, we're all about the intuitive day. I mean, the past 2 years of COVID showed us that the way we were banking and doing business before is completely changed.
And it's nice to hear that.
But without track record, it's hard. It's very difficult. I mean, track record is everything, right? I mean, so even if it's just 1 year of proving yourself and backing yourself to show something, it's very difficult to come with an idea and get that funded by any lender.
And in your space, Brent, give us some good news. So how are you seeing the growth in terms of young people coming to you, young guys who just started out? Are there a lot of them knocking on your door? Is there a decline? Are people still, is there appetite to start up their own businesses as rigorous as it was, let's say, pre-COVID?
Yes, very much so. So, yeah, the caveat is obviously we won't lend to start-up business or people who literally start their business from scratch. You do need some track record. But, I mean, we're seeing a huge amount of entrepreneurs doing some very interesting things in some really exciting spaces, and getting a lot of traction and doing really well and making some really, really good money out of it. So definitely, I think there's lots and lots of success stories that I can tell you about.
Yeah. The banks have a very, also a rigorous process into vetting the jockey. So
Well, what to say on that? I mean, you can't believe the amount of kettles that are sold on Take-A-Lot, or belts, or watches. I mean, I thought people had one watch. No, I mean, it's amazing. So
I'm addicted to
there's-
Take-A-Lot, so
yeah,
I know.
exactly. I mean, people are spending on Take-A-Lot. People are buying stuff, and people who are selling and doing things there are actually are doing really well and selling a lot of stuff that you would never expect. It's amazing.
Well, you find about anything now on Take-A-Lot.
Yeah.
Literally. Exactly.
Just on the Take-A-Lot, so another offering we give to the entrepreneurs in our business segment, it's something called Blue for You, and it works on the same capacity as Take-A-Lot. So whatever your business is about, if you are selling electrical equipment or watches, you put it on this website, and it's the same functionality as Take-A-Lot.
As Take-A-Lot,
And you can go and click, and your account gets credited,
Yeah.
customer gets the
Standard Bank portal.
Standard Bank portal, yeah, it's called Blue for You. You go and then you can set it up. The payment gateways will accept whatever you need them to accept. And we take it a step further where we say, do you need us to design your website for you to make things easier? And then we do that for you, customized to your business.
Okay.
And to take it a step further, we ensure that if someone does a Google search on you, because as you know, when someone does a Google search, it's you plus a million other results.
Yeah.
They ensure to put you sort of like first, second, so that you get recognition on the first page.
All right. And I think lastly from me, I was wanting to ask, in your space, Brent, which is, I think, probably a little bit riskier than the banking space.
Yes.
So a standard bank will go through a rigorous process to vet me as the jockey now. The jockey is the lender in this instance. So they'll do everything short of asking me for my dental formula, you know. They have AML, they have EDD, enhanced due diligence. There's a lot of things that they do. How do you ensure that the lender knocking on your door is actually somebody you want to get into bed with?
Yeah. We do our checks and balances, I mean, almost as much as a bank would do it.
Okay.
I think just because we're smaller and more nimble, we can do it in a much shorter space of time, and we can make decisions quickly. And, you know, where someone comes to borrow money from us, you're talking to me, you're talking to the people that are actually going to be making the decisions. If there's problems, you can talk to me, who ultimately makes the decisions about what we can and can't do to help. So I kind of really it feels, the entrepreneur feels good. But we do the checks and balances, we do the credit checks, we do bank account verifications, we do ID checks. Every loan we do, we will meet the customer, we will go and do a site visit. So that is a key criterion which for every single business that we do. Obviously with MS Teams now, it's a lot easier to actually meet people face to face. You can actually see their IDs in front of them and that kind of thing. But yeah, so we do everything a bank would do, just we try to do it quicker and more nimbly.
What is the craziest business idea that you've ever had to look at, or even from you guys, where somebody wanted a loan for a business-related activity? What's been the one where you said, "Oh my goodness, what am I looking at?"
So
Sherman, you got one?
I had this client,
Oh, you had one.
and set up an appointment, and he sent me this beautiful email saying, "This is, we need to discuss. We need to discuss. This is the best thing he's come up with." And when we sat down, he says, "Up front, I need a 5 million." So I said, "Okay,
Means
let's
how much,
look
sorry?
at
5
5
million.
million."
Okay.
So I said, "Okay, let's break down what are you needing for." Anyway, to cut a long story short, he wanted to bring Wimbledon to Cape Town, and he was going to get the Williams sisters to come and play in Cape Town.
Okay.
So, you know, we get these things.
Yeah.
And You just had to go through the motions of it and
With a straight
with
face.
a straight face. And eventually, you know what? Thank you, sir, but this is not for us.
Yeah. And you
But
sort of,
after that, I crossed my fingers. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope this doesn't actually
Happen.
happen.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, based on the facts, no.
I mean, just this week, I had someone who just sent me a screenshot of some shack from Property 24 and said, I want to start a nightclub.
Oh,
Okay.
Finish. That was it. And, I mean, I didn't respond, and I think 3 people in our organization got the same
Yeah.
message, picture. He wants me to start a nightclub. Not that the nightclub's a bad business necessarily, but
It's a money maker.
yeah, it is, I think. But it was just funny to see.
Okay. And what advice would you give somebody who wanted to start a? I mean, for example, we have a lot of pressure sometimes as people who work in corporate. You know, people are telling you, oh, I don't want a 9 to 5. I want to start my own business. I want to be my own boss. What are the thriving business ideas out there where you would possibly say to somebody, actually, I think try this, and from a banking perspective as well, where you're like, actually, we're seeing a lot more success in this specific industry, be it nightclubs, be it, you know, bringing Wimbledon to South Africa. What would you say, you know, actually, if you want to start a business, look into this industry?
I mean, I think the two things. One is the side hustle. So when you're working, starting something on the side, getting traction, and then going full time into it, I think is more of a clever idea to kind of test the waters, as it were, and to see whether your idea is going to be successful. But I think, you know, the online retail space is really interesting and really hotting up.
100%.
But more particularly around that, which is an industry which is really exciting, is the kind of management of the goods that get delivered to and from customers. And actually, if someone can really do that properly and efficiently, I think that is a really good. And we're seeing 1 or 2 businesses starting up in that space, and are doing very, very well.
Yeah.
And also think, keeping COVID in mind, and everybody's very scared to start up a business now. You know, you go into lockdown today and you don't have a business the next day. Would you guys agree with
100%. Off the bat, the logistics of just moving an item to the next spot. I mean, who knew Checker 60 is going to be such a big
such
thing?
a big thing? Yeah.
What I see in our space is, number one, food is taking off tremendously. So starting up your side hustle in terms of food, and then latching onto that with the logistics of delivering the parcel. So that is going absolutely insane from what we are seeing.
All right.
Customers are starting up, especially, and I'm not sure, there's a place called Maker's Landing in Waterfront, where they incubate new entrepreneurs who are chefs, and then from there they grow their business, and then they start venturing out to delivering their product to. So food and logistics, from what we see in our space, is just skyrocketing, especially since COVID, where nobody could move and they needed someone to bring. So they're just piggybacking off that, and it's taking us to the next step, next level, basically.
Okay.
And property in the Western Cape, it feels like the whole of South Africa is moving here, and you can see it in the traffic. So any town or Cape Town, any surrounding town, property development or owning property, specifically land, I don't think they're making any more of that. So get along that.
All right. I've asked you quite a lot. I'll open up for questions from the audience if there are any. Is there a mic somewhere that we can? Thank you. Tuto, I've seen your hand. Okay, yeah.
Tested. Okay. So I've got the mic, so I'll get to ask the first question. So in the ED space, you're saying, since shown,
Sharon, yeah.
that you deal with SMMEs that have got a turnover of less than 50 million and must be 51% black owned.
Yeah.
In all of this discussion, I haven't heard any funding for potential black entrepreneurs to get funding for BEE deals that come their way. So you'll find a thriving company that is predominantly white owned, and they actually want to divest some of that shareholding and give it to a credible, a black partner who will add value and make the entire business model then more sustainable in terms of then opportunities if they are 51% black owned. Are there any opportunities where you would explore helping the shareholding restructuring so that they may fall within the ambit of what you guys can offer? I think is my question to you. And then, sorry, I didn't get your name.
Brent.
Brent. So I like your guys' model because it's more realistic. Because you know what the problems that the SMEs are facing, that they'll be turned away, etc., etc., etc. As well, the area of BEE funding. When you think about how the growth trajectory of your company, do you think it's something that you'll consider, or is it something that you've already spoken about? Thanks.
Do you go first?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of that, the enterprise development, whom I said I work close with, it's a segment that sits in Johannesburg. And this enterprise team, they look specifically at such scenarios where they can assist the business from moving from whatever level they're on to an actual level, BBBE, and then assist them with funding, obviously based on the merit of what they need funding for. So they will go through, every month, the 22nd of every month, the panel sits with the case scenarios of the applicants that are needing funding, and they will see which is viable and which is going to be able to assist. For argument's sake, I assisted a lady that had something similar to what you are speaking about now, changing from a non-BEE to a BEE. She became the only director, and then that changed it over to a 51% and a woman-owned business. So we set up with two sushi shops, one in the waterfront and one in Milnerton, and we gave her funding. So there's nothing that needed to be repaid back. We gave funding to start that business for her in terms of that. So we do look at that. It's a panel that sits and decides. They look through each scenario and they say, is this going to be viable for that business? Is this business actually going to grow after we give them the funding?
And from our side...
Can you still remember the question?
Yes, yeah. So from our side, most definitely, I think it is a huge growing area and obviously a massive need in South Africa to provide funding on those terms, and actually also particularly at more attractive rates than what we currently offer right now. So there's definitely a lot happening in that space, a lot of initiatives, a lot of bigger listed businesses and large corporates to get their enterprise points are often donating funds and money to and creating pools of capital where lenders like ourselves who see the deal flow and understand the space can access that money very, very cheaply, much cheaper than our current funding rates, and actually offer those for sort of to lend into black-owned companies. There are one or two guys that have already started up already and are operating, but as far as Gears Capital is concerned, we are very actively looking at trying to access these pools of capital. We are not too far away, so watch the space.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
Thanks. Is it on?
Yeah.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Tuto, and from BDO. You know, there's a lot of maybe conversations that are happening around banking the unbanked. And I think there's, good conversations on the, maybe what you guys will call PBB, maybe from a Standard Bank perspective. We understand how we get individuals on, specific payment platforms, etc. My question is now, how do we define the unbanked from a business perspective? It's maybe my own conviction that there's an entire economy that we are not accounting for, in our general sort of maybe economic sort of books and so on. If you go typically into a township today, there is a person that has a couple of bedrooms, and in their front they've got, a place where somebody's renting out to trade. How do we bank those people, and how do we actually, on top of banking them, give them access to the scalability, and maybe it is more forced than a bank.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Brent,
Sure.
if-
It's
if-
difficult.
I mean, that's probably an area that is a little bit not in your space specifically, but it would be interesting to then say we are sitting in a predicament, I think, as a country,
Yes.
where we need to accelerate SMEs and really accelerate SMEs in a meaningful way, all inclusive. So I would like to hear from
Sure.
from the bank's perspective, and I took notes of all these platforms that you're talking about, which I think they're great, Blue for You, and the flexi loads, etc. But there's a gap somewhere
Yes.
that I think we're leaving out, and it's kind of probably slowing down what we could achieve as a country.
100%. So in terms of the unbanked, put in perspective, every annual year, 34 billion rand goes through our economy through unbanked. So that's a lot of money. So in my department and along with enterprise development, we partnered up with the IEDF, which is the Informal Economic Development Forum. And they're doing exactly what you have just mentioned now by going into the informal communities, raising awareness in terms of banking and getting the unbanked, your sole proprietor, assisting them on how to go and register their company to become a PTY. And then from a PTY, you now can continue trading, and then more doors will be opened up to your business to grow your business. So we generally go out, we've earmarked between 2,000 and 5,000 informal, unbanked clients within the areas of Khayelitsha. So we do go out, and I think it's every 3 months or every quarter we go out and raise awareness. We take our laptops with us, speak to the clients, we give out information on what we can do for them in terms of the banking sector. Money in your mattress is not the same as money being inside a bank, because we need that track record, because we then educate them, put it in a bank so that we can get a paper trail. So in the event of you wanting to grow your business, we've got a paper trail. Money in your mattress is not going to help you with that. So we empower them by giving knowledge, register the business. From the business, we grow them to the next level, and so on, they become the SMEs.
I can also just have a few comments on that, which might be quite interesting for everyone to hear. We actually have sort of explored and looked and come across this kind of idea, and what we found is there's like groups of people, like the Somalians, for example, who like build out shops in a lot of these areas, and that they self-regulate each other.
Yeah.
That if that guy's not paying his loan or paying his debt, the rest of the community will be incredibly harsh on that person. So they actually are creating this interesting dynamic where they almost feel like we can lend into them because they're so trustworthy, because if he doesn't pay, I promise you now, the rest of his community is going to make him pay you back to grow. And you actually feel a lot of comfort in that. And I think they're doing a really, really good job of that. So creating things like environments like that are really exciting for us. And then a really amazing success story is, again, it's a Somalian guy. He came to South Africa. He has nationalized now. He's got a South African passport. So he's got dual citizenship. He started off as a taxi driver in Wynberg Main Road. Eventually found himself in Joburg and managed to convince one of the old white Jewish guys who owned a big building in Benoni to sell him the building. But he didn't have any money. So the guy actually sold him the building, gave him the keys to the building, and he ran this building, which had 30 flats in it. And he could use that money to pay this guy off over a 5 or 6 year period. And he did that, okay? He then had this building, which is worth 9 million. It's got, I think, a replacement value of 27 million, which we then actually funded to help him buy another building. And he's actually currently on his 3rd building. He probably owns 30, 40 million rand of property, probably replacement value of 60 million plus, and making over 500,000 rand a month of income.
Wow.
And that's just one story that we've come across and we're funding.
Yeah.
And we're very excited to see what this guy does and where he goes. So, I mean, I don't know if that answered your question, but it's just interesting to hear.
It's an incredible story.
Because I think also what we lose about, you talk about money under the mattress. It's unproductive money. We need to get it into the system, as you say. Somalians have created that system where we can whatever community
Exactly.
they're in. And that is then the crisis that I'm trying to figure out to then say how then the banks really get to participate a lot more.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
thank you. We've got 2 more questions, and then I think we're going to have to close this panel. Tuto, please can you repeat your comment because we're not audible online?
Oh, the comment was just commenting on what Brand has just sort of maybe articulated to us on the communities that use that money to circulate within their communities, which becomes more productive than anything. And the question is then, how do we widen that through the banks to make the money that's sitting under the mattress to be productive money for the economy? Because then if it's sitting in deposits, you're able to actually make it more productive.
Yeah.
You know, so
100%.
Thank you, Tuto.
Thanks. I just wanted to ask the Standard Bank guys, what's your team specifically's balance sheet for the projects you do? And the fact that it sounds very ESD based, is it, sometimes ESD feels like it's for BE points, and the risk you'd also take on entrepreneurs wouldn't be the same as like someone like Brent who's doing it for profit making. So what you find is, yeah, the risk taking is not the same, and also the entrepreneurs aren't as free because you bring these extra products, but it's kind of like, it feels like BEE. Yeah.
Okay, so every loan or anything the client is asking for us, we don't always look, okay, are you B? No, you're not. Okay, sorry, move on. We look at the merit of what you're wanting to do. We want to grow. Are you wanting to grow this business, and can we help you grow this business? Because at the end of the day, Standard Bank's motto is Africa is our home, and we grow her, and we drive her growth. So it doesn't necessarily come down to a balance sheet. It comes down to if this business plan is viable and it's going to grow your company. In the end, that's what we go on.
Thank you.
Sorry, he's not done.
Hang on, sorry, you need
Sorry.
to...
No, the balance sheet question was, what's your team's balance sheet? As in, how much can you deploy? Right?
Sorry, I misunderstood you there. So, us, for SMEs, it's anything from 0 to 10 million. Anything above that will go into a different segment. But if it's a group of companies and they have one, let's say, a small business in a space that is sitting in our portfolios, we can also foresee it. It's just a matter of getting the credit manager to have a look at what is needed, and whatever is needed, we can always push it through the threshold, provided there is scope for that.
Okay, last question.
I'm seeing a lingering but in your mind. But you can have the conversation
after
this,
offline. We can
okay?
chat.
Yeah.
Good day, everyone. My name is Nomisa. So I work a lot with township entrepreneurs. I'm from Kabeja. My question to the Standard Bank guys is, yes, it is a great initiative that you have going. Is it a national one, or is it, because you spoke particular with Kailicha, is it a national initiative? And also, second fold, more of an extension to what Tuto was asking earlier is, township entrepreneurs, it's quite a cash-driven economy. So I wanted to find out, are there any banking solutions that you may have for those entrepreneurs? Because when you're in a township, it's not that easy to just go to an ATM, deposit money, and then your suppliers, chances are also within the same township, and they only accept cash. So all of that, I find, is a limitation to them scaling up in terms of their businesses, where you find someone 5 years they've been operating and they're still at the same point. It's mostly hand to mouth.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to find out, what solutions do you guys have for those township entrepreneurs?
Sure. So with our enterprise development team, I just look after the Western Cape. It is national. There are other teams that are in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng and Kabeja and Mpumalanga and everywhere else in the country. In terms of what you are saying now, it's very cash driven. So our merchant solutions, they offer, if your corner shop in the township is operating with a lot of cash, then we turn them into an ATM type of a thing. So if a customer wants to go and purchase something, that money gets kept in that shop. But if somebody wants to make a withdrawal and there's no ATMs around, the card machines from that shop allows them to make a cash withdrawal. Like you go to Pick and Pay and you get your cash back. So it's the same scenario set up. And if the cash that they're keeping becomes a bit too much, we also offer the cash solutions of the cash vans that will come and pick up the cash and remove it for security purposes, because, I mean, you can't be walking around with a wad of cash inside your pocket. It's not unsafe. But we do offer that they can purchase electricity, airtime from the shop, so that the funds that they're getting is going into something else and is creating that trail run or that paper trail of funds for that actual business owner.
Okay, literally the last two questions.
Thank you, Chair. I find that there's a lot of business ideas out there that goes unfunded, mostly because of the approach that we take. So we're taking the traditional approach that then say, look at you as an individual, your credit profile, the sort of security that you have. And I think in the main, we miss a large chunk of what we need to do. So perhaps the question for me to the panel is, to what extent are we investing in terms of the research to understand the business opportunities that are there, so that you are perhaps ahead of a client. So if I come to you and say, I have got an idea in this sector, so you're already aware what are the risks that pertain in this particular. So that research for me, it's what is key, because then our focus, I think, in evaluating this, it's on the wrong aspects. The guy is an entrepreneur, he knows what he's going to do. It's a cash business. In fact, if you take it to the township economy, that's what you experience in the main. Somebody who can put a business plan together, but they've got an idea what I want to do and where I want to take it. So for me, that aspect of saying, as a bank, you circumvent your own risk by saying, what research do I put to understand what's out there in the market?
It was clearly a very difficult question.
Well, I mean, from my side, what I said earlier, you've got to afford to be an entrepreneur. So I think that's kind of the starting point. Secondly, friends and family is critical to kind of helping you to get going, and communities to helping people get going. So I think that's kind of often and needs to be the first sort of germinating start of being an entrepreneur, is kind of the people closest to you that know you. But then I think, I don't think it's for the banks and the non-bank lenders to take that risk just yet. I think it's the likes of the CIFA, the Small Enterprise Funding Association, and government institutions that should allocate some of the budgets and the fiscus to doing and researching this and doing that kind of thing. I think they are doing that, by the way. So I think there is a lot happening in that space, but just not, I wouldn't say, well, definitely not from my side, and I haven't heard banks doing it. I don't know about you, but...
Yeah, to answer the one question, the one point you raised about being ahead of, just to see if the client's business idea is going to take off. So the bank, or Standard Bank that I know of, has now latched onto our influencers. As before, it wasn't really a thing. Influence, you were always online and doing whatever, but now they are generating high revenues of income. So we coach them, we guide them as to how they can manage their funds. So we are going out of the box, not your conventional the factory and you making dolls type of a thing. So we are looking at the influencers and assisting them in their businesses. Good. Because they are a business themselves.
Yeah, true. A brand.
Sorry, thanks, Boo. My name is Ashley. Just a few kind of comments and a question as well. I think I can relate to what Brent is saying. I left corporates I was a banker as well at Standard Bank. and I could see the opportunity to being an entrepreneur. Started my business. I'm in the servicing of those logistics spaces.
Clever.
But what my challenges was at that point was, yes, I mean, corporate sits on one side of the table. They say, yes, we want black entrepreneurs, we want small businesses. You go and start up your business and you find yourself you don't have funding, right? You got to bootstrap yourself, sell your car to actually get your business off the ground. Gets off the ground, then bankers come, throw money at you, etc. But they weren't with you at the genesis of your business. And that's where I think a lot of, to the extension of what presidents were saying, is that where there's a big stumbling block. So the innovative way of giving credit or allowing kind of a facility to assist a small business to get off the ground, get that facility, the working capital, for them to actually be a sustainable business. I mean, I employ almost 24 people, so I mean, could be more of myself. I mean, I was fortunate, I took my pension, put it into the business, and I kind of grew it. But I mean, I think there's more stories like that can come out if we kind of have nimble ways of what Brent was saying, you know, of kind of funding and backing them. Yes, I know about the CFAs, the CEDAs, etc. But I mean, the bureaucracy of actually going for that, I mean, you only start your business in 2 years' time. So I think, you know, innovative ways of actually finding and funding entrepreneurs need to actually be looked at from a banking perspective. Just on my question around the Edge product, we've been engaging as ABASA with Edge. I was fortunate enough to be there when the Edge, it was called Purple before, was there.
Yes.
So I know the genesis of that product. I mean, that product hasn't really delivered what it's supposed to be delivered for an entrepreneur. What difference is it going to be making for me as an entrepreneur going to an Edge when I've got a private banker that's actually looking at my stuff? What's the value add of that facility? Thanks.
Okay, so the Edge is focused at accountants and the accountants that handle their clientele that are in their portfolio. So what happens, what we see on a day-to-day basis is accountant will call in and say, I need to do the financials for my client, but I don't have access. So now we can't just grant access. There's a whole POPIA Act thing that we need to go through before granting that access. So Edge is for the accounting firm. So once you take up that Edge product now, it's changed from Purple. It used to be personal and business, now just for the businesses, for sole props, PTYs, and CCs. So that if that accounting takes up the Edge package, they get a point of contact in the bank that helps them now navigate through their clients that are with Standard Bank to get them those SARS statements, to whatever they need to be corresponding with, to draw up the financials, to even apply for loans and even bridge the gap with whatever loan that gets, say a 90% loan, then assist with the 10% loan from a different department, like enterprise development, as I mentioned earlier. They work hand in hand now. So Edge is basically aimed at accountants. It's been relaunched now in the past 3 months. It's totally different from what Purple was before. Edge is just strictly for the accountants and how we can assist the accountant to help their clients that are within their portfolio.
So just one more question. Brent, what's your maximum?
Sorry, President.
Ash, just 1 second here.
We start at 250,000 and loan up to 10 million at this stage, because we're still quite a small business. But as our book grows and our business grows, we'll obviously up that. But for now, it's sort of 250,000 minimum. Because and even there, it's a lot of hard work and stuff and legals and costs and stuff get involved and time and energy. So even for us, we kind of like to start around the 1 million to 10 million, but we will look under 1 million in certain circumstances, but up to 10.
Okay, cool.
He's disappeared now. I don't know if, oh, there we go, yeah.
I think children of Western Cape.
Lazola, do you have a question or you just, oh, okay, all right. Smoo, I think we are pressed for time. I don't know if we can take one last question or
No.
not.
I think
Oh.
having another Indaba there. Okay, no, guys, thank you so much. I think we are going to have to close.
All right.
We've got, I think the host has arrived now.
All right.
So just to reshuffle things, we're going to have to take a short break,
Okay.
coffee break. So I know we've been drinking coffee since the whole morning, but welcome to have some more coffee.
Yeah.
But thank you very much.
Guys, please take your time to chat to the guests. Grab a business card. I think the general theme is that, you know, they are ready to do business with you. We're ready to get those business ideas, not let those business ideas, you know, go on the wayside. Getting the unbanked banked, I liked what you said, Tuto, so let's do that too. Thank you to everybody who participated. Thank you, guys.
I've got 2 deals. I need